Donald Trump wants a Nobel Peace Prize. Right? And that's, I think, that's a dilemma that we have. And this is going to unravel this whole business that we have going here. Mr. Trump has made it his role as a peacemaker a major theme of his second term, and it's an admirable ambition. But the question is always, peace at what price? Cunning adversaries like Mr. Putin or Xi Jinping can't sense when the desire for a Nobel Prize can be exploited for more substantive strategic gain. That's exactly what I've been saying. And it's being picked up at 4:24 today by major newspapers. Believe it or not, that's exactly what's happening right now. I think that the president wants a prize. He wants a prize. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, except that for you to get this prize, you need peace, right? To get peace in Ukraine, well, four things need to happen consecutively. And it's basically tied into what the Europeans are going to want when they come tomorrow to Washington. And what do they want? Well, number one, they want so tomorrow, just to make sure we're on the same page here, but tomorrow you've got 2, 4, 6, you've got Ursula that's coming from the Commission, European Commission, you got the UK Prime Minister that's coming, you got the French President's coming, the German, the Italian, NATO, and the Finnish President. Most of these people are on board with Trump, most of them, except maybe the German guy, but doesn't speak too much of English. But all these are more or less friends of Trump, not antagonistic. So that means, and what do they want? They want four things, okay? First, they want to show unity and solidarity because Zelensky is coming, so of course. But number two, because this joint appearance is Zelensky's strategic move to ensure Ukraine isn't negotiating alone, especially in the wake of the Trump situation, where Ukraine's role was excluded. Europe's presence signals a unified, so they want to be together with their friend Zelensky. Nothing wrong with that. Number two out of four, and that's what's going to hurt. They want support for robust security guarantees. And I'm going to show you how these people think in terms of interest. European leaders are pushing for concrete NATO-style security assurance for Ukraine. Now remember, just a little bit of a history, because I want my subscribers to understand what's actually going on in the world. But in 1994, what happened in 1994? Well, there were something very similar that happened in 1994. Well, basically, it's called the Budapest memorandum in 1994, was understood by Ukraine, meaning that in case we would lose, we would have issues, then they would be backed up. Okay, they would be versus how so basically they signed an agreement in 1994 because at that time Ukraine had 1,900 nuclear warheads. They said, okay, if you get rid of the nuclear warheads, then you'll be fine. You say, okay, well, you promise, right? If I get rid of the nuclear warhead, it's a binding security guarantee, right? And we'll protect you. The problem is Ukraine, understood by Ukraine versus what the guarantor state, which is US, UK, Russia, and later France and China, it wasn't the same understanding. So they thought they had security guarantees and they didn't get it. So, the Ukrainian leaders believed that they were receiving real security guarantees, almost equivalent to NATO-style protection in exchange for surrendering the nuclear arsenal. But the disconnect that Ukraine thought we gave up nukes, we get guaranteed protections. The guarantor meant we promise not to attack you and we will protest or use diplomacy, but not automatic defense commitment. This is, you got to understand the history, and this is the reason why they're basically saying, listen, no, that's not going to work out because we're not going to go to war because the gap became tragically clear in 2014 with Crimea annexation, and in 2022, nobody came and helped Ukraine. They were basically on their own. So the US and UK invoked the memorandum rhetorically, condemning Russia. We condemn you. I said, well, that's it? You were supposed to protect me. They receive aid, sanction, weapon support, but not direct military intervention. And that's what they're saying now. When these four people, they're going back tomorrow, meeting the president in Washington and maybe, the other two guys. Basically, they're saying, well, you got to give me some guarantees here, right? You're going to give me guarantees. And this is where the Nobel Prize situation comes in. European leaders are pushing for concrete NATO-style security assurance. This time, they're going to make sure that it is a guarantee that if somebody invades Ukraine, you are going to come in and help out militarily, not by being angry and pissed and doing what they're doing now, which is basically sanctions. No, I want you in. They are determined to secure a defense framework strong enough to deter future Russian aggression. But who do you think is strong enough to deter Russia? France? The UK? No. You've got to get the US in there. How do you get the US in there? Well, basically, the UK is saying, well, we could put some soldiers along the line, and the French president today said, well, it's not a fighting force, it's a representative force. What does that do with anything, right? You need some, you need some real help here. And that's why they want the US to get in there. Be very careful. This is fraught. And I'm not sure if they're all seeing, they're seeing it, obviously. I'm not going to discover, they know it, they see it. But the concern is that they may not really realize what is actually happening. And what's happening is that they may be losing it. They may be losing the situation. They may not realize, or at least they need to convey the idea that no, we're not going to get in there, and we're not going to get in there and put some soldiers in the middle. No, that's not going to happen. Well, if you don't do that, right? Like I said, they basically have what do they have? Support for robust security guarantees, not like in 1994. We want you to get in there. Now, of course, there's also number 3, which is they want to ensure that Ukraine has a seat at the table. Their accomplishment emphasize that any future peace, involves Ukraine directly. But basically, they're going to tell Ukraine, listen, you can't expect to keep your, you're not going to keep any of this, right? You're going to have to give it up. And number 4, they're going to give pressure on the U.S. to commit. So out of the 4 things, 2 of them are basically, the number 4 is pressure on the U.S. to commit. By presenting as a coalition, the European leaders are reinforcing that any lasting strategy must include diplomatic, economic, and potentially military contingencies. And they expect the U.S. to match their level of commitment. Hello, Katie. Hello, Vyugor Kasarov. Right? So out of the 4 things that these people, the 4 items that why they're attending, 2 of them involve the U.S. in a very strong kind of way. Number 2, support for robust security guarantees. And number 4, pressure on the U.S. to commit. So what are they doing really? Well, it's simple, but it's complicated. They know that Trump wants to get the Nobel Peace Prize. So what do you think? What do you think he's doing all this for? He's a billionaire already. He's got kids, got grandkids. He's a president of the United States. What else is there? And time is running out, right? Because at the end of next year, it's time to go to Congress and vote a new Congress in, right? Maybe he gets it, maybe he doesn't. I mean, meaning that maybe the Republicans get voted in or maybe they don't, depending. If they don't, it's all over. Everything that he's trying to do, they're going to say no, 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 just because he's doing it. It's all over. So he needs its price now. And frankly, I mean, he said it himself several times. And the icing on the cake, thus this thing about Clinton, is that, I mean, everything is out there. You have to know, you have to read the sign. You have to read what it's telling, right? Clinton say, in an unexpected move, Hillary Clinton, who loves Trump, announced that she would personally nominate Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Don't forget, he has been nominated by a few people already. She specified that the peace deal must include a ceasefire, no exchange of territory, and a Russian withdrawal. That's never going to happen, right? That's never going to happen. But I'll be willing, to consider him for the Peace Prize. And a bunch of other people have actually nominated him already. And the president himself has said that is something that he wants. In February, he expressed frustration they hadn't been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Some people are going to laugh at it, but, they will never give me a Nobel Prize. I deserve it, he said. Later, he reiterated the sentiment, no, I won't get Nobel Peace Prize no matter what I do, including Russia, Ukraine. But the people know, and that's all that matters to me. But now he really wants it, and he's getting close. Right? He actually cold called Norway's finance minister, which is that's where they give the prize out, and reportedly to discuss both tariff and his chances of winning the Nobel Peace Prize. This is a real thing. And this is what this channel is about. This channel is about telling you what's going to happen before it happens so that you don't get surprised and you prepare for it. Not so much that you prepare to congratulate him, but you prepare in case he gets it and the consequences of getting them or not getting it, because it will impact the economy, your job, it will impact Congress. A bunch of things are going to be impacted here. What do you think Rubio and J.D. Vance went over there to visit with him? To make sure that, okay, let's keep it tidy. Let's not talk about anything. We go in, we discuss, very short, no press conference, and we leave. We don't say anything else at this point. What do you think that is? Very tight. Why is this very tight? Because they have to be very careful what they're saying at this point. Because they realize he wants the Nobel Peace Prize. And when you know someone wants something bad, you could take advantage of it. And that's what Clinton's doing right now. She's saying, I will help him. Multiple countries, including Pakistan. Pakistan, imagine you're Modi. Anyway, Israel, Cambodia have officially nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, citing his role in brokering agreements such as the ceasefire and peace talks. He's almost there. The prize is almost there. He can only get it. He could smell it. He could see it. All he needs is Ukraine. He needs a peace deal. And I don't know if you know the story, but in fact, they think it's a bad thing, but originally they went there for a ceasefire, and now they're getting potentially peace deal because even his friend Putin said, well, not his friend, they admire each other, like I said before, but basically said, no peace, no, we're not going to have any, halt of the fighting. We want a peace deal, not ceasefire, peace deal. That's what we want. We want a peace deal. Well, here we go. Just go for the peace deal. But how do you actually get one? It's simple. They tell you already. They're coming tomorrow. And they're basically saying that they want the show of European unity. Okay, fine, we got that. You're showing up with the guy. We want to ensure Ukraine has a seat at the table. Fine, he sits at the table. He's going to have to say, I give up the 20%. And we're going to need support for robust security guarantees. That's going to be a problem. European leaders are pushing for concrete NATO-style security. Not the one that they thought they had in 1994, the Ukrainian thought, the real thing. Meaning you go in there, we're attacking. And who's fighting back? Who's going to fight back if some other guy comes in from Russia or whatever? It has to be the U.S. It cannot be, Ukraine and NATO. Please understand that even NATO themselves have said that the Russian army is formidable with 1 million men. They don't have that many men in. They don't have that many in NATO. You want to know how many men are ready to fight in NATO? The U.S. is going to get involved. I could tell they're going to get in there. That's going to be a problem. How many soldiers? How many fighting? What's a fighting force? What is a fighting force for NATO versus Russia? You ready? Russia. Russia has about 1.5 million. Okay. I want to know the NATO ready. How many men are ready to fight right now? Okay. Wow. 40,000. It plans to raise to it plans to raise to 300. How are you going to fight 1 million men versus 40,000? I'm not talking adding all the soldiers in Europe. I mean, in all over Europe, United States. Now, these are soldiers all over the place. They're not ready to fight. How many are ready to fight right now? The NATO Response Force, which is called the NRF, is a high readiness multinational force encompassing land, air, maritime, and support unit that NATO can deploy quickly, meaning, you're there, you're protecting in Ukraine, and they're coming in, you go in. After the 22 invasion, NATO increases readiness posture, initially capable of deploying around 40,000. They announced plan, not done, plan to raise to 300,000. Right? So, they're no match. Are they a match to the Russian army? I don't think so. Right? So Russia is 1.5 million. And then another 2 million reservists. I mean, NATO has the edge ultimately, but not today. Right? So much smaller. And that's why they want the U.S. to get in and say, well, help us out. Get your people in there. Okay, well, the only way for you to do that is for the U.S. to get involved. And that's where it's going to hurt, because people like J.D. Vance, MAGA, blah, 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 they don't want any of that. They don't want the U.S. involved in any kind of war or any kind of posture. And yet you cannot get this. You see the dilemma? You cannot get this peace treaty without the U.S. in the middle. I mean, Trump is basically saying, okay, I did the job. Now you guys decide. You give up 20%, blah, blah, blah. And then what? You still need to be in the middle. We're not going to protect this country by ourselves. And the Ukrainians are not going to believe it because they had it before and nobody protected them. They're going to want to know NATO-like defense, meaning that if you attack in Ukraine, then you get a military response, not tariffs or anything else. They want actual military actions. And if they don't get it, then that's not going to work. And that is the dilemma that is faced by Donald Trump. Because that is needed. Okay? So, at the end of the day, that is going to be needed. So, what I think is happening is they are in trouble right now, they're in trouble because they can't get these people to commit. And yeah, Pakistan is getting involved, and that is a problem. They're gonna need to get in the middle of that, and I don't know how that happens, because they're very upset that they don't want to be basically ignored. They don't want to lose out. But at this point, I don't know. They're gonna need to get in the middle of it, and because of this the situation with the Nobel Peace Prize, they may not be able to do it. That's going to confuse the issue. That's going to make it very difficult for them to make it. So how does this get resolved? Well, this is where the other two guys come in. We've got J.D. Vance in there because he wants to become president. He's going to say, whoa, hold on. You're not committing anyone here. We're not even talking about commitment at all. I do not wish to have any commitment in this situation. Questions for you all. Should the U.S. commit forces into Ukraine? Right? Let's see what you say. As a security guarantee. Let's see. Let's see what you're saying. Right? Should they actually do it? Tell me what you think. 50% say yes. $67 no. A lot of you are saying no. I don't think so. I don't want the U.S. in there. Yeah. That's the problem that they're having right now. They're concerned that the U.S. is getting involved in some fashion. Right? Let's see. %83 saying no. You're not even sure what's coming out of your mouth. I know what's coming out. I'm reading the survey. 83%. Muyasa, I got this. So basically what's happening is 83% are saying no, we do not want the US. But then Trump cannot get you see that gold coin? He cannot get the gold coin. He cannot get the gold coin if he doesn't get it. If there is the security guarantees. If he gets the security guarantees, then he wins. But otherwise, then you get the U.S. involved. And 78% of you, and this is pretty strong. Clinton is trolling Taco Boy Trump. Of course she is. This woman never really liked him to begin with, so why would she even bother with him? Right? She doesn't like him. And for her to say, yeah, I'll give him the price. Go ahead. You got it, right? Congratulations. You got. Oh, but by the way, now you got 500 troops in Ukraine, and now I'm going to turn to my friend the Democrats. Say, you see, look at that. He got himself in another war. And then, of course, at the end of the year, they are going to be, there's going to be elections all over, and they're going to use that. they're going to say, well, hold on, but you blame the Democrats, and now look what's happening. Now you got us into another war. Who wants that? You understand how their world is extremely complicated. And this, I believe, is the reason why J.D. Vance went to Alaska. And he's not saying much right now, but I will tell you right now, remember, J.D. Vance is the one that called on Europe to step up for Ukraine. He urged the European allies to take on a greater financial and military role. Not the role for us to get involved. You get involved, noting that Americans are growing wary, as you could see in your survey, which 68%, of bearing the conflict's burden alone. He pointed out, however, that much of Europe's aid still depends on U.S.-made weaponry. No more. MAGA does not want anything to do with any kind of war. And rightfully so, right? Rightfully so, because, click 360. Rightfully so, because at the end of the day, look what happened in Iraq, Afghanistan. I mean, how much millions and dead and billions and for what? You can't control these people. And then this is why MAGA put Trump in the White House. It's no more fighting. It's make America great again. But then again, this is not unusual, right? Modi is doing the same thing with India. Russia is doing the same thing with, Putin is doing the same thing with Russia. Remember when I don't know if you know, but when Lavrov, his defense minister, came yesterday, he came over with Putin, he was wearing a CCCP sweatshirt. Do you know what CCCP means? I want my subscribers to be knowledgeable here. What does it mean? No Russian-speaking people? Call on Europe to step up for Ukraine. Exactly, Robert Lopez. It means USSR, not Russia. USSR, meaning the stuff that Putin is trying to get back in kind of a way, and he's not doing a bad job. He already took Crimea. Now he's going to take 20% of Ukraine. Remember, at some point, Ukraine belonged to Russia in the 50s until Khrushchev decided to. Anyway, let's not go into that story. But the point is that, now, does he want to take the whole empire? I mean, that's going to be a little difficult. He's got lots of men, but it's time to wearing off a little bit. But the point is, he's in the middle of, that's what he's trying to do. And J.D. Vance says, no, we're not falling for that. And the reason why the U.S. doesn't want to do that, because the U.S. has the problems. The U.S. is running out of time. The U.S. needs to start, make your own pharmaceutical, your own medicine, your own, the rare earth minerals and all the stuff that you're getting from China, that needs to come from the U.S. Otherwise, you're going to be dependent on all these countries. And quite frankly, these countries, when I mean Russia, China, definitely, and India, you're highly dependent on them to get these things. What things are you saying? Well, I'll tell you exactly what things that you need from China. Right? The U.S. relies on Chinese production. 50% of printed circuit boards goes in all electronic devices come from China. iPhones. Okay, I guess you don't need an iPhone. Computer chips. You need computers. Lithium batteries to power your iPhone and everything else. 80% global capacity comes from China. 80% of pharmaceutical ingredients come. 100% of antibiotics. Most of your vitamin C, ibuprofen, all that stuff is not made in the U.S. anymore. It's made in China. PPE, the mask and the gloves, remember that stuff? That's what J.D. Vance said. Listen, no, we don't have time to get involved in your wars, and we need to build stuff in the U.S., right? Because we don't do these things. Now, of course, you're going to say, but what's the big deal? I mean, the reason the U.S. has allowed this to happen is it was a good thing for the U.S. to begin with, right? The reason you want to build it out of, because you could export manufacturing is done cheaper, right? And you bring to the US and you give them dollars. What's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with it? What if tomorrow they decide to close you out of there and then you don't have access to it anymore? We're not talking T-shirts here. We're not talking sneakers. We're talking rare earth mineral. 80% of the U.S. supply comes from China, and the U.S. hasn't gone back to the level they were getting last year. China is becoming a little bit more trading 101 is becoming a little bit more tight on the rare earth minerals. Now, obviously, what do we care about all these things? This is politics. No. This is direct, since we have Trading 101 on. This is a direct relationship to the stock market. This impacts the dollar. This impacts the tariffs. This impacts inflation. Impacts everything, right? So the reason is, this is important, this Nobel Prize that he wants. He might be willing to sacrifice the MAGA movement for it. And again, if you lose MAGA, then J.D. Vance is not getting elected anymore. The whole Congress you may lose to the Democrats because they're just waiting, and rightfully so. They're waiting for the mistake, right? Dollar goes nowhere forever. Well, yeah. And where does the dollar goes anywhere? Why do we need the dollar? Well, what do you think you're giving them while they're sending you the antibiotics? What do they want from you? They want dollars. Why do they want your dollars for? It's only a piece of paper. They want it so that then they can turn around and take that dollar. For example, China is building this humongous 168 billion power facility because it wants to become more independent from anyone else. And then it will become great again, and it will build a fortress China. Then good luck to get in there, because the only way in there, you know what it is, right? It's not going to be with the tariffs anymore. That's not going to be strong enough. You're going to have to go in there physically, and you know what that means. But they're waiting for you because they're not just making antibiotics. They're making weapons at a rate that is far superior to the U.S. Well, they've learned to make everything else, and frankly, they have all the rare minerals that they want. And you know what rare minerals is used for, right? What do we use a rare mineral for? What are your thoughts on nuclear World War III? Now, hold on. I'm not saying we're going to have a war, okay? I am not saying there's going to be a war, because no one wins in a war, okay? What I'm saying to you is they are building up their fortress, and you'll be surprised who would start a war. It might not be China. It could be the U.S. that starts a war because they say, hey, we need the stuff. Our people are starving. We don't have any glass. We're not starving, but we don't have the things that we used to have, and now you're keeping it for yourself, and that's not fair. Why do you think Trump is negotiating right now with China, and China said, well, let's postpone another 90 days. I'm not ready to give you all of the rare earth mineral that you want right now. We're going to wait it up a little bit. Keep in mind that right now there are a lot of defense companies that are in dire need, U.S. defense company, that are in dire need of rare earth mineral. Which companies in the U.S. in defense are running out of rare earth minerals? Which is not rare, They just take 15 years to dig, to find, to come out. That's the only problem. Because China dominates the global rare earth supply, it refines over 85% and produces nearly 90% of high-performance rare earth magnets. The magnets, that's what you need for the missiles. Critical for defense systems like the F-35 jets, the submarines, okay? In 2025, China imposed new export restriction. See what I mean? They're not doing it on the antibiotics, but they're doing on the, that's happening. Read it. on several rare earth elements and magnets, affecting the U.S. defense and aerospace firms. They're saying, we need it. Many U.S. military technology rely on these components. The U.S. has limited domestic capacity. Most mine rare are sent abroad for refinement. Now, obviously, publicly speaking, no one is running out. They're not going to say it. But some of those are facing serious risk. That includes Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman. Now, obviously, in terms of investment, be careful, right? I wouldn't invest right now in Northrop Grumman if I can't get the rare earth minerals. What are you going to make? I mean, you don't need to make everything, but obviously that's going to impact your supply chain. That's going to impact your stock price. And this is how I want my subscribers to benefit, because you understand what's happening. Now, the other end, in Europe, and now they just increased from 2% to 5% of their defense, of their GDP for defense. There, maybe you may want, if you want to invest, and I'll do a special video for my members, but you might want to take a look at those companies, those defense companies in Europe, because they, on the other end, might not have the same issue. Okay? Maybe they just do without it. So, back to the Nobel Prize and Clinton and Trump, right? You understand how this whole thing, you marry itself into this big, gigantic mess that tomorrow, these people, I think they landed tonight, they're staying in a hotel. In the morning, they're going to be seeing the president, and they're going to sit around the table, and they're going to say, okay, these are the four, because they met today online talking to each other, these are the four things that we need, and two of them involves you, U.S. And Trump is going to say, what do you mean? Well, what we want, and I digress, but what we're going to want is, security guarantees, but not the kind that we gave in 1994. We want robust security guarantees. And Zelensky is going to see an opening. He's going to say, okay, I'll give my 20%. I'll give 20% of my land that Russia is already sitting on anyway. Although Russia wants something that they're not sitting on too. So I don't know if they're going to get that. But I'll give them 20% of my land. But I want the U.S. in there with troops. And J.D. Vance is going to come out of his office. He's going to go see the president and say, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, that will probably create a peace treaty, and you'll get your Nobel Peace Prize. But now I'm going to have to work, because when you're going to be gone, I'm going to lose MAGA, and I'm done. And if anything happened to any of one soldier, what are we going to do? Ready to go to war? Because that's basically with the security guarantee. And I heard the French president talking today. He wasn't saying it's a fighting force. It's a representative force, whatever that means. It means, we're there to show that, but at the end of the day, we're not going to. There's only 40,000 soldiers ready to fight for NATO right now. Let's see what's going on with this survey. Both Trump and Powell deserve Nobel Prize. Recession next year legitimates massive QE to refinance bullion. Wow, that's pretty good. I mean, he's making, I like trading. He's making a lot of interesting reference. The tulip reserve, he's referring to what happened, I think, in the 1600s, where people were just, paying all kind of money for tulip until they realized it wasn't worth anything. He's talking about the Nobel Prize in economy. Recession next year legitimizes massive QE. Well, what's happening, what trading is talking about is basically, and this is one of the risks that we've been following, although I think that as long as the U.S. is a reserve currency, I don't think we're going to have a problem, because all they need to do, and that's what he's referring to, they're going to print the dollar. They're going to be printing because we paid this year. There's $9 trillion due to be refinanced. $9 trillion. That's a lot of money. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, by the way. That's $9 trillion. That's a lot of money. The only way you could do it is you have to basically print money. These are 69% of you said no. We do not want U.S. troops, and most of you are in the U.S. Quite frankly, some people in England, but most of you in the U.S. at least so far. So 69% of you are saying no. Exactly, right? So Monday, be careful, because what did Trump actually say? What did the president actually said about troop involvement? Well, he basically said, let me bring it up, because everything is what you say and then what you mean, right? And basically, when the president was at the, he was over there in Alaska, he basically said that he didn't say I don't want. He didn't say no. I mean, he didn't say yes, but he didn't say no. He was a little bit more uneven. Okay, J.D. Vance on the other end was pretty categoric in terms of MAGA. He's the J.D. Vance. You got watch him very carefully. He is the MAGA intellectual heir. Yeah, he has been the closest to the MAGA base in tone and substance. That's what he went to Alaska to make sure. Hey, let's not get off strip here. By pressing that Europe must shoulder more responsibility in Ukraine. His skepticism that any peace deal will fully satisfy both sides allow him to appear as a realist. He says this is not going to happen. Meaning, if the U.S. is not involved and you don't want to give up 20%, there's no peace. There's nothing. Okay. He has a certain disdain for globalist fantasies. Now you have to understand J.D. Vance. I don't know if you saw he wrote a book, and he had a pretty tough upbringing, and he's a pretty realistic guy. He says, you're going to make peace on my back. That's not going to happen. His framing of sequencing, it was Trump Putin first, then Ukraine. U.S. leadership should be personal, strong, and transactional, not bureaucratic. Transactional. What's in it for me? Right? He's MAGA 2.0, believe it or not. And his peace talk for Trump framed as America first. But what Trump has done recently, and that's his own creation, they tend to start to question his judgment. Three things that he did. One, the thing with Epstein. He said, there's no there. Let's not talk about this anymore. One mistake. So now you have all of them are going to Congress. Number two, he basically, gave some weapon to Ukraine. Bad idea. No, I'm not giving, I'm selling. Still bad idea. We're getting involved. The MAGA people didn't like that. And third, he bombed Iran. Why? Why would you take a risk like that? And in fact, at some point, JD came out and said, whoa, you know what? I don't think it was worth it because I don't think we destroyed them anyway. And they were very upset about what he said. So, and now, number 4, I want the Nobel Peace Prize, and I wouldn't mind if put a few soldiers in the middle. So, that could be a lot of damage. Imagine when China invaded Taiwan. Well, the only reason China would do something like that is they are forced to do it, right? And because they know what the consequences are going to be. And the reason they would do it is because they'd be forced to do it. How could they be forced to do it? Well, right now, believe it or not, the only reason China is still talking to the U.S. is because China needs the U.S. You know what they need the U.S. for? Only one thing, really. They need the consumer. They need the consumer, the U.S. consumer. 25% GDP is the U.S. They need the U.S. consumer right now. Why? Because China, while they do all these wonderful things, they're doing a lot of wonderful things. Too many wonderful things. So many wonderful things that they don't know what to do with it. Someone's going to buy the stuff. In fact, there's a huge, where we have inflation in the U.S., they own a lot of our debt. Actually, hold that thought, John. They have a lot of deflation. A lot of deflation, meaning the prices are going down because they have so much stuff they need to sell it. And Europe is deadly afraid of China because they say, well, what are you going to do with all your stuff? You're not going to dump it on us. That's going to bring our prices down as well. So China is, okay, US, here it is. And Trump says, whoa, hold on. Take it easy here. What are you giving me? I need the rare earth mineral. And they say, well, hold on. What are you doing? Are you buying my stuff? No, are you giving the rare earth mineral? And this is what they're going back and forth, 90 days, 90 days, 90 days. As far as what John Cash is talking about, a lot of our debt, for the first time, and this is a sign, you heard it here. Maybe not first, but you heard it here. For the first time, China holds less debt, U.S. debt, than the UK. And that's a problem, right? Because they're saying, I don't really want your debt anymore. I have too much of it. Well, if you're not helping me, I mean, what am I going to do? Print the dollars myself and pay my own debt? I don't want that. I don't want it anymore. In fact, you know what? The less that I buy from you, the higher the price goes, the yield, because the price goes like this and the yield goes like that. And the higher your yield, the more it becomes expensive for you to carry that debt, and it becomes more impossible for you to manage your budget, and you get into inflation situation, and things get that much worse for you. China was always, Japan is the largest, but number 2 was always China. Now number 2 is the UK, which happened to have 10% tariffs, by the way, and they're also coming tomorrow, right? So there's a lot of, and you have to watch this very carefully, and I'll tell you why you need to watch this carefully, because if this thing goes sideways, and when I mean sideways, I mean that tomorrow Trump comes out. In fact, there was an article today in the Wall Street Journal, actually, that says things like, Mr. Trump has made his role as a peacemaker a major theme of his second term, and it's an admirable ambition. But the question is, at what price? Cunning adversary like Putin and Ping can sense when the desire for Nobel Peace Prize can be exploited for far more substantive strategic gain. I said that this morning. This drives me mad. Right? It's obvious what's happening. Now, why is it that I know and they don't? Well, no, it's not that I know and they don't. But what it is more often than not, they really can't say it. Right? Because it could be very upsetting. Now, you have to understand that, regardless of what you think about the president, I believe that all of the press corps really is against everything that's happening with the administration, unfortunately. I mean, maybe you have 1 or 2 outlets, but most of the outlets basically look whatever is happening. So you got this pressure, constant pressure happening, right? They're just looking for an opening to say, I told you so. I told you so. I told you that the inflation, that those tariffs were going to create inflation. I told you that it's going to be a mess. Now we're back in another war. I told you, look, we're losing all our friends. Didn't I tell you? You know what I mean? And they're right in a way. They're correct. I mean, the administration is going pretty tough very strong against some good friends, including India. What the heck did India do to you? 61%. No. You people just do not want guarantees. What did India do to you? Why are you upset at India? Why are you upset at Switzerland? Why are you upset at Taiwan? When I mean upset, literally the president of Taiwan wanted to visit the U.S. and they said, no, don't come. I'm talking to China right now. In fact, I could go, let's see what he does next, but I could go as far as saying that maybe Trump wants to be China's best friend, bypassing everyone else. Forget these other people. Let's just do business with each other. Because when Taiwan comes over and wants to meet with the president, and he says, I can't meet with you today. I am talking to China, knowing that Taiwan is deadly scared to be taken over by China any moment they want. They only invested, I think, $40 million or whatever last year. No, 15 billion. And they say, we're going to do 100. And Trump said, no, I need 400 billion from you. Right? Maybe, just maybe, the administration is saying, let's just be friends. Can we just be friends? In fact, you know what? Let's just split the world in three. Russia, China, and I. How about that? And everybody else, can we do that? Why would you do that? Because I'm getting desperate. I'm running out of time. My country is running out of time. Between 5 to 7 years, I will not have enough withhold to generate significant amount of semiconductors. I can't do it. Of course, once you become desperate, then they'll take advantage of you because they're looking at interests. Is that what the administration is doing, or they're just pressuring China or the others? But the way the way the administration, and I can understand why some people are saying, a little bit tough, the way the administration is dealing with India and Switzerland and Brazil, and these are facts. Brazil is 50%, Switzerland 39%. This is nuts. India 50%. Canada is gone. Forget it. What are you doing? You're going to force these people in? No, you don't understand. I don't want you people. I want India, I want China, and I want Russia. Everybody else doesn't count anymore. Maybe they just want to bypass, go directly to the end goal. Let's do business. We become the one, and we rule the world, the three of us. How about that? Because frankly, when he met with Putin yesterday, you could have said, oh, he got taken advantage of. No. They like each other. These two people like each other. I mean, they are people that, they've done incredible things in their lives. And I think there's a huge amount of respect between the two of them. And you could tell because when the car came for Trump, he invited him in his car. And that was the only time when they got to talk. Who knows what they talked about, because everything else got cut down very quickly. So they talked very quickly. We'll see what, many years from now, we'll find out what happened. And then, and you could see that Putin say, you know what? If you were president, I would have never invaded Ukraine. I mean, that's a gift. That is a fantastic gift that he gave him right there. Then Trump turns around and says, well, walk on the red carpet, come into my car. You're accepted among us. You're back in the world play again. That's what he did. So they gave it to each other, and then he invited him to Russia, and Trump said, well, you know what that means? If I go to Russia, now they're going to go after the Russian gate all over again. But it's a joke. I mean, it's not a joke, but so you could see where this is going, where he's going with this. You could see that it's going to be at some point, it would appear that the administration, or at least Trump, is getting farther away from MAGA than the other guys. And the other guys are there say, hey, take it easy, stay with us. No, we're not putting boots on the ground. So therefore, there is no peace treaty, and let him give his country away and let the European go in there. But Zelensky is going to say, no, I want the U.S. in there, knowing that you can't get it. Oh, well, I tried, but, I can't get it. I can't get it. But who knows? I mean, the president might decide, no, I'm too close. I'm so close to have the Nobel Prize. Let's just put 10 soldiers or whatever. That doesn't mean anything. It will mean something to the Democrats. It will mean something to MAGA. It will mean something to all these people, and they are going to be pissed if that happens. And that's the reason why Clinton, is baiting him. And potentially, who knows, even Putin baiting him with it as well. Right? Although I don't think I don't think it's a case with Putin, but because they've made statement with each other. There's nothing to be gained, and he knows that Trump is, because Putin plays check, and Putin and Trump plays poker. So so 67% say we should commit forces into Ukraine. No. 67 said, no, we don't want to commit anything. So you guys don't want to have anything to do with Ukraine. Who should, this is a good one, be the next president? Let me see what kind of crowd I have here. Well, let me stop this one first. End poll. 67 of you said nope. Don't send anyone. Who should be the next? Not who will. Who will be the next U.S. president? Should we have a Democrat? I'm not even going to say, who, because I don't know who could potentially, but JD or Rubio. This is going to be interesting. I had to ask. Let's see. Because because the reason I'm asking this question is because that's what's being played right now. Because right now, JD Vance are very visible right now. They are very visibly positioning themselves in the aftermath of the Trump-Putin meeting, but in different ways and in different tones. For example, J.D. Vance, strategic framing. Right, Vance has been emphasizing that Europe must step up in Ukraine. He doesn't want these people there tomorrow talking about bringing, no. You give your 20%, and Europe, yeah, sure, be my guest. You go and protect them, like you did in 1994, which is never going to work. This projects him as the voice of realist restraint within the administration. Diplomatic sequencing by saying Trump-Putin talks had to happen before. He's the one that decided that. Vance is reinforcing Trump's primacy while still carving out his own role as a strategist who understands sequencing. This is tough stuff, believe it or not. Political subtext. Is skepticism about any peace deal fully satisfying both sides gives him space to appear clear-eyed and pragmatic. It looks like he's motioning for credibility as a statement, positioning himself as Trump's logical foreign policy anchor. It was Marco Rubio doing in this. Well, he's a guardian of principles. Rubio has been stressing that Trump-Ukraine stance hasn't changed, while also warning that Ukraine may be part of any real deal. He's a steady end, defending continuity. So he's like the statement, right? The bridge role as Secretary of State. Rubio has repeatedly engaged with Lavrov and European leaders. I don't even not so sure if he wants to be president, quite frankly. I don't think he's that kind of. Let me see what you think. Ooh. JD's the man. I knew it. Rubio is 17% Rubio, 33% Democrat. So right now, okay, well, there's only 6 people voting, please. We need more people. This doesn't mean anything. But basically right now, it's a little bit of a conundrum that we're having here. Because he is not going to let that happen. Okay. So, and so Vance is basically carving a political persona, and Rubio is carving a statement persona. They probably already agreed. You become president, right? And I guess he remains Secretary of State. He becomes vice president. I don't know. I don't think he would want to take that role. Vance is angling for political capital and legacy alignment, while Rubio is aligning for diplomatic stature and credibility. Now, of course, if you're Rubro, right, you stay a bit behind. Yeah, you're right. You're the one. You're the one. Yeah, yours. Right. In case it doesn't work out, well, you know, you're with him. I'm over there. Remember, I'm little Marco. So, but now I'm ready to become big Marco because you guys, you got tainted. It's a very, very, very delicate situation right now. I don't think many people realize. Imagine no midterm. Oh, hold on. Democrats are back 50%, 56%. Whoa. So that would make sense. So you know what's happening with the Democrats right now? They're basically taking the Republican rule book out to try to do what they need to do. So that should be interesting. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, as I've got lots of interesting topic coming next week. We're monitoring the situation, which is a bit tough, I have to say, a bit complicated. We're going to keep going here. We're going to keep going with more topics, as long as I get us some super chat going. That wouldn't be bad. So we keep the conversation going. 2 super chats, 2 minutes. That's how we roll here. $5 super chat, another 30 minutes. And we keep going and going. Now, what we have is, let me tell you about a little bit of a history. So you understand, because they always refer to the what happened to Ukraine. Why is this so important for Ukraine to get this this agreement, right? Because what happened in 1994, basically at the fall of the European, the USSR, Ukraine ended up having 1,900 warheads. 1,900. So basically, what they did is they said, okay, well, I tell you what, we'll give you a security guarantee. So the Ukraine interpretation of that same language from 1990 to 2010, the Ukrainian leaders believed that they were receiving real security guarantees, equivalent to NATO-style protection. This is going to come up tomorrow. I'm telling you, in exchange for surrendering the nuclear arsenal. They must be hitting themselves on the head. The president at that time saw the deal as giving Ukraine protection equal to NATO nuclear umbrella. Ukraine officials described it as a quid pro quo. Nuclear disarmament in exchange for sovereign and security guarantee, right? I mean, makes sense. But in 2014, under Obama and Crimea, the Ukrainian politicians repeatedly argued that Ukraine had been betrayed. So when they're going to show up tomorrow saying yes, 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 you can understand why Ukraine is saying, well, hold on, what kind of guarantee am I giving you? I'm going to give 20% of my country, right? And then what? We're going to same thing happen again? And then he's going to want 30% later on? U.S. position at that time, the memorandum provided assurances. I mean, that's what Obama said. Not guarantees, legally binding defense obligation. The UK officials echoed the view. They said it required diplomatic and UN action if aggression occurred, but did not oblige military intervention. We will complain very strongly, but we're not going to go to war. That's not going to happen. And the Russian view was, wow, we signed a nuclear power, but later argued that the memorandum was void by Ukraine political change. I mean, that was kind of saying, I signed with the other guy, not with you, so I'm invading you. I'm taking France and China basically agreed but never committed to the enforcement. And they're going to be coming tomorrow. So you can understand when Ukraine is going to see these people coming in and talking with them. France really didn't do anything. China was not even involved. UK and US said, well, this is not exactly what we meant. Who got no, they got disembodied. They took all of them away. I think they buried them or whatever. I mean, 1,900 warheads. What are you going to do with 19? One is enough. So the disconnect, it has happened before, and that's why you need to understand history. Otherwise, you're walking around, you don't know what's going on in the world that you're living in, and you need to understand. And join this channel so I could tell you everything that I learn every day, which is a lot, and it's changing, and it's going to change again tomorrow. Ukraine thought we gave up nukes, we got guaranteed protection. No, we never said that. Guarantors meant we promise not to attack you, and we protest and use diplomacy, but not automatic defense commitment. So Ukraine interpreted the Budapest memorandum as a binding security guarantees, and the other guys didn't understand it. So you could bet that tomorrow, if you're going to do anything, is going to get agreed. Although there's no way JD and Mario are going to allow this to happen. That is not going to happen. But Trump is indeed a public servant because he says, "Listen, I'm doing the thing that I said I was going to do." Well, I say, "Well, I beg to differ a little bit here because when you said the MAGA people always say, right, no Epstein kind of situation. We don't get involved in any wars, right? And of course, we get the tariff, all that. That you took care. But the Epstein thing, I mean, you went off script a little bit, and you went off script a little bit with Iran. And tomorrow, if you offer security guarantee, you're going to go off script again. That can't be. But he has gone off script before. Let's see who's going to become 57 Democrats. Really? There's only 14 votes. It's either a Democrat, but we don't even know which Democrat is going to take over. Maroli Redulosa. Okay. JD's coming back. JD's coming back at 40%. I want to hear everyone. I want to make sure I'm talking to the right audience. 53%. JD's back. Well, I tell you right now, JD is going to be next president or a Democrat. But Rubio just is not making any waves right now. Not really happening. Let's see if that continues, but yep. Okay, my friend. Let us see what happens tomorrow. Let's see what happens tomorrow because that should be quite interesting. Remember what I told you? We shall do that. Fiat rules the day. Yep. So far. We shall see. Okay, everyone. See you tomorrow.